This is Power Hour with Gabriella Power.
Hello and welcome to Power Hour. I'm Gabriella Power. Thank you for joining us. Coming up on the show, ABC pulls Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air indefinitely after these disgusting lies following Charlie Kirk's murder.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Good riddance. President Donald Trump says, great news for America. The ratings challenged Jimmy Kimmel show is cancelled. Congratulations to ABC for finally having the courage to do what had to be done. Kimmel has zero talent and worse ratings than even Colbert, if that's possible. That leaves Jimmy and Seth two total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also horrible. Do it, NBC, President Donald Trump. We'll have more reaction to this in a moment. Also on the show, Obama blames Donald Trump while speaking about Charlie Kirk's assassination. Turning Point USA has revealed more details about Charlie Kirk's memorial in Arizona this weekend. And the president makes the king laugh during his state visit to the UK.
That's the first, and maybe that's going to be the last time. I hope it is, actually. But this is truly one of the highest honors of my life.
Joining us now is media strategist for Maha PAC, Caitlin Sinclair. Caitlin, thanks for your time today. You were formerly the official spokeswoman for Turning Point Action during the election campaign last year. We, of course, spoke a lot leading up to November 2024. But look, right now, we are seeing the left being just so disgusting about Charlie Kirk's murder. Here's former US President Barack Obama, who cannot help himself but declare that Charlie Kirk's ideas were wrong to a sick audience who are cheering those comments.
Obviously, I didn't know Charlie Kirk. I was generally aware of some of his ideas. I think those ideas were wrong. But that doesn't negate the fact that what happened was a tragedy and that I mourn for him and his family.
Caitlin, Charlie Kirk said this best. You can tell a lot about a person by how they react when someone dies. And listening to the applause there, the cheering in the crowd, it says so much about them that they cannot help themselves. They have to cheer Barack Obama when he declares that Charlie Kirk's ideas were wrong. Charlie Kirk was murdered just a week ago. Can I get your thoughts on this?
I'm in utter shock. I mean, it's disgusting that this is how certain people in this country are reacting to a murder. So Obama thinks that Charlie Kirk's idea, Gabriella, of praying for the guidance of Jesus Christ was wrong. Charlie's ideas of rational and polite debate with college students and educating young people was wrong, or that marriage should be between a man and a woman. You can't change your sex. Obama believes all of that was wrong. What ideas exactly is he referring to? There should have never been a but in his sentence. Correct. Saying that he condemns this murder, but adding the word but. There is no but when it comes to murder. There is no but when it comes to Charlie Kirk and the good that he did for this country. And he also mentioned Donald Trump in that speech. Obama stood on that stage, not only pointed the finger at our president, but pointed the finger at the American people that supported this man, that supported Charlie, not the shooter. He didn't point the finger at the shooter, not the system that actually has failed us. So this message and this speech was so backwards on so many levels.
So backwards, and we do have that part of the speech where Barack Obama decides to blame Donald Trump while speaking about Charlie Kirk's assassination. Here it is.
We have to recognize that on both sides, undoubtedly there are people who are extremists and who say things that are contrary to what I believe are America's core values. But I will say that those extreme views were not in my White House. I wasn't embracing them. I wasn't empowering them. I wasn't putting the weight of the United States government behind extremist views.
Not in my White House. Look at him. I can't even believe it. But let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel. ABC has announced that it's pulling the Jimmy Kimmel Live late night show off air indefinitely after his disgusting lies about Charlie Kirk's death. Now, Jimmy Kimmel's opening monologue from Monday night's show suggested that suspected killer Tyler Robinson was aligned with MAGA. Listen to this.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff.
An ABC spokesman said that Jimmy Kimmel Live will be preempted indefinitely, and a Nexstar media group said that Nexstar strongly objects to recent comments made by Mr. Kimmel concerning the killing of Charlie Kirk and will replace the show with other programming in its ABC-affiliated markets. I mean, good riddance. Why is the left so deranged? They're trying to pretend that this murderous monster was part of MAGA. Caitlin, what do you make of this?
Well, not only are they trying to spin the narrative like they normally do, but now you have leftists and elitists and members of Hollywood taking to social media feeling bad for Jimmy Kimmel. And just to get some facts straight here, Jimmy Kimmel did not get canceled. This was not, quote, cancel culture at play, Gabriella. Jimmy Kimmel lost his job because of the clip you just played, because he spread lies saying that MAGA and our people are the ones that were responsible here. This is the exact same type of rhetoric that created the monster that murdered my friend Charlie. If someone had questioned anything about George Floyd in a TV comedy monologue back in 2020, you and I and all of your viewers listening tonight know that he or she would have been fired on the spot. So why should it be different for a conservative? Why should it be different for a young Jesus-loving conservative like Charlie? And I think this is a warning message to the mainstream media, the legacy media, the left media, whatever we're calling them nowadays, because I don't think they're so mainstream, but pushing their twisted narratives as truth is no longer going to stand. I think the American mind is breaking. We refuse now to let you manipulate us and our kids. So all the comedy specialists and TV monologue writers better be very careful, because I think this is a warning.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, it's interesting. Charlie Kirk seems to be right about absolutely everything. Back in 2017, he wrote this on X: Jimmy Kimmel isn't funny. Well, he's absolutely right about that. And I think ABC has made the right decision by pulling Jimmy Kimmel Live off air. Now, although this leftist psychopath has tried to silence Charlie, they, of course, have made his movement unstoppable. TP USA has received over 54,000 new chapter requests nationwide. Now, Charlie Kirk's life goal was to get to 20,000 chapters, so it's more than doubled that now. And, of course, Turning Point USA is the fastest growing political organisation in the entire world. Caitlin, what are your thoughts on how this movement is just growing, especially after what happened so tragically last week?
Yeah, Charlie would have been so proud. I really think this is the pendulum swinging, and it's coming back with a vengeance. That's what we're seeing across the country, especially on college campuses. I could tell you from my time last year spent with Charlie on these college campuses, young people are done. They're done with being silenced. They're done with being punished for being or speaking their conservative views. They're done with being fed lies. They're done with the indoctrination. They're done with trying to have their minds stolen, and they're furious. They're furious at the censorship, the cancel culture. They're furious at a system that told them it was not okay to express their views. So the hard truth is the other side is refusing to accept what this movement is now going to become. They mess with the wrong people. Gen Zers and Gen Alpha are about to be some of the most conservative generations, I believe this to my core, that we have ever witnessed. You cannot stop a movement that was forged in fire. And that's what we're witnessing right now. People are waking up in waves, and they're looking for real leadership, real community, and a real mission. And that's exactly what Turning Point USA represents.
Absolutely. And Charlie Kirk was a real leader. There was no one like him. But I suppose the silver lining in this is we are seeing right now more and more young people feeling called to go to church for the very first time. And of course, Charlie wanted to be remembered for his faith. Are you seeing that? Are you seeing more and more churches being packed out, people buying Bibles? Talk to us about what you're seeing.
I would love to. I think we should call this the Charlie effect. What we're seeing right now is nothing short of a true revival. In this past week, thousands have shared on social media that for the first time they bought a Bible, or they prayed for the first time, or they visited or walked into church with their family and their young kids for the first time. And Gabriella, I was actually one of those people. I went to church for the first time in years this past Sunday because of Charlie. And I want to tell all your viewers, during my time at Turning Point, I shared with some of my family there how I was struggling with my faith. And I want to share the conversations I had. There was never any judgment. These conversations were meant with encouragement. They wanted to uplift me. And those are the kind of people that Charlie hired. That's the kind of culture that Charlie built. That spirit that was trying to fuel everyone's faith. And I think that's what we're witnessing right now. It's inspiring a whole generation to reconnect with something real, something deeper and stronger, because this is so much more than politics.
Yeah.
And I can speak firsthand to that. I was one of those people, and I will continue to work on my faith in honor of Charlie.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I know so many people can relate. And I tell you what, right here in Sydney, Australia, it is happening too. So many people are feeling called to go to church for the first time. And that is part of Charlie Kirk's legacy, the Charlie effect, as you put it. Now, this weekend, Charlie Kirk's memorial will be held in Arizona. And Turning Point USA has unveiled the massive speaker lineup, including, of course, Erica Kirk, President Trump, JD Vance, Marco Rubio, RFK Jr., Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Tucker Carlson, Stephen Miller. I mean, it's going to be powerful, it's going to be moving, and I'm bracing myself for it because we've had a lot of heartbreak, but I think it's going to be a really powerful memorial.
Oh, yes, I will be there alongside my Turning Point family and colleagues and patriots from all over the country. And as you just mentioned, we have leaders and voices that I think will be able to speak to the gravity of what we just witnessed last week. And most in attendance, I think it's fair to say, if not all, will still be mourning and grieving. But I think also standing this weekend with unbreakable strength and determination is what we're going to see. We've witnessed this incredible resilience among Americans in this past week. And I think this gathering will actually be a chance to feed off of each other's energy, to feed off of that four-letter word that is so important right now, and that is hope.
Yeah.
I think we all need that. We all need to spread that message, and we're going to come together to remember that, to heal, and to recommit our determination to the fight that Charlie inspired. So it will be great.
It will. Caitlin, before I let you go, I've got to ask you about the MAHA movement and fired CDC Director Dr. Susan Monarez. She's been grilled over recommending vaccines such as the Hep B vaccine for infants. Now, this was during a Senate hearing on RFK Jr.'s decision to oust Susan Monarez last month. And this was about, of course, the childhood vaccine schedule. Now, here is Rand Paul putting some questions to her, which she just refused to answer. Listen to this.
What is the medical, scientific reason and proof for giving a newborn a hepatitis B vaccine if the mom is Hep B negative?
I want to go back to the assertion associated.
What is the medical reason for giving a hepatitis B vaccine to a newborn? See, everybody's like blithely going along. We can't change the childhood. You're somehow terrible if you want to change the childhood. We should be discussing what is the childhood vaccine schedule, and the burden should be on you. You want to make all the kids take this? The burden is upon you and the people you wouldn't fire to prove to us that we need to give our 6-month-old a COVID vaccine and that we need to give our 1-day-old a hepatitis B vaccine. That's what the debate ought to be about, not whether all vaccines are good or whether we live in Alice in Wonderland.
Interesting watching that there, Caitlin. She couldn't answer.
Of course not, because these people have no answers because they've all been bought by big pharma, by big agriculture. And I think what Senator Rand Paul did today was he sent a political earthquake through Washington and a shiver down the spine of every single parent in this country. I truly believe that every young mom was standing there watching this, actually getting the chills. Former CDC director, she showed up today with anti-Trump lawyers and no facts. She was passing notes the whole time, whispering back and forth. And like you just alluded to, she had no answers. She had no answers for questions that every young parent or parent in this country really deserves. And Rand Paul didn't just challenge a bureaucrat. He challenged a total narrative that we've been fed for so many years. So I think this is just the beginning. She also accidentally admitted that our Secretary Kennedy, is going to change the vaccine schedules for kids. No longer will we just accept the status quo. And that means asking the hard questions, continuing to show up and ask these questions. We saw real leadership today. And I think the American people are going to refuse to accept weak answers. No longer will we accept those when our children's lives are on the line. So
Absolutely.
Today, truth was demanded and the accountability has only just begun.
Caitlin Sinclair, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's time for Media Meltdowns, and the media has not stopped lying about Charlie Kirk's assassination. This was Jimmy Kimmel on Monday night suggesting that the leftist monster who killed Charlie Kirk in the most evil way possible was part of MAGA.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff.
Yeah, he said it, a new low. Jimmy Kimmel Live has been pulled off the air indefinitely by the ABC, and good riddance. I've had enough of these lies about MAGA, about Charlie, and of course it's not just Jimmy Kimmel. Here is CNN's Caitlin Collins insisting that we have no idea what could possibly have motivated this monster to kill Charlie.
You said a lot there, and we don't have a motive yet. We don't know yet. We're waiting. Obviously, we've heard what the governors had to say, what the FBI director said today.
Come on, we don't have a motive yet.
We know.
We don't have a motive yet.
What's
really?
happening with?
Really, that's CNN's position.
I mean, from law enforcement,
he just happened
Senator.
to fire the gun in celebration. You can't tell the motive.
Senator, that's not what I said, and I said law enforcement hasn't laid out a direct motive. They've laid out a lot of evidence here of these messages and what
actually
the
they
shooter
have.
said
They've said
to
that he
family
was a
members
left-wing
and to
activist who hated Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, well done, Ted Cruz. Authorities have spoken publicly about the suspect becoming increasingly political, increasingly left-wing, and of course was in a relationship with a man who was transitioning from male to female. And here is this ABC News reporter describing the text messages between the suspect and his trans boyfriend, where the suspect admits in these messages to killing Charlie. And this AB News reporter describes these text messages as touching.
We have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate who was transitioning calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this case. And on the other hand, he was, speaking so lovingly about his partner. So a very interesting and, as Pierre said, riveting press conference, David.
I mean, how sweet. This murderous monster was romantic. It's just disgusting. And here are the hosts of Cleveland's largest newspaper's podcast suggesting that the shooter was probably conservative.
How do we know what the motivation was in most of these cases? We don't really know what it was in Kirk's killing.
We don't, exactly. And everyone's trying to put him in a box, and they can't do it.
Right. He came from a conservative upbringing, right? That seems to be a lot where his politics align. And also, look at the shooting of Donald Trump last summer. We don't know what motivated that. Mm-hmm. So I feel like this really is one of those political knee-jerk reactions where, and of course, you draw the death penalty into it. We've now ratcheted up the emotions to a level 10. And there needs to be some level-headed thinking around this issue right now.
These lies are obvious, they're intentional, and they have to stop. But finally, let's go to MSNBC, because MSNBC suggests that all the celebrations that we keep seeing on left-wing TikTok accounts, people celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder, well, they're not actually happening.
I think if you look across media generally, you have seen a lot of people trying to grapple with Charlie Kirk's legacy and what that is as a right-wing agitator and as a provocateur and as, you know, a strategist and the most important GOP figure besides Donald Trump, arguably ever. And so, or right now. And so there's a lot of grappling to do, but to suggest that the internet is cheering for this is just the opposite. Total opposite of what's actually happened.
Joining us now is CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair. CJ, great to see you again. So many lies from the media. I mean, it's absolutely effed up. Can I get your reaction to the decision to pull Jimmy Kimmel's show?
I'm disgusted, to be quite frank, about the rhetoric that we just heard in those clips. So to be quite frank, I thought that you had to be funny to host a late night show. And so I think this decision by ABC is long overdue to pull Jimmy Kimmel's show. At the end of the day, if this was something that happened to those on the left, we would be condemning it. We would say that it was wrong. Why can't those on the left do it? Well, it says a lot about them and a lot less than it does about us.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jimmy Kimmel could actually be probed by federal investigators after telling his audience that Charlie Kirk's suspected killer was a MAGA supporter. Federal Communications Commission boss Brendan Carr told podcaster Benny Johnson that he's considering an investigation into Kimmel and his network. And you know what? I support an investigation because there has been so many lies. I'm so sick of hearing from so many different outlets that, this suspected murderer could have actually been a Trump supporter or his parents were conservative. I mean, the evidence is out there. Authorities have made it clear that this person was increasingly political and more and more left-leaning, had a trans boyfriend. I'm so sick of mainstream media outlets just ignoring some of the facts.
I'm sick of it too. And as you said, there has been every single strand of evidence that has, arisen throughout this entire ordeal has proven that this was a far left-wing radical influenced by the transgender agenda to commit harm and commit violence. Anything else is a departure from reality and a departure from truth. And so, we also saw it from here, at the University of Alabama, where I'm currently at, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where we hosted a memorial event for Charlie Kirk. We had a professor say right on right violence was out of control. Right on right violence. This was someone who put on a bullet, catch this fascist. I'm sorry, Gabriella, you know this too. Conservatives don't speak like this. Supporters of President Trump don't speak like this. This was someone who was mentally ill, but also too corrupted by the woke mind virus and used that to commit harm in a way that was absolutely irreparable and absolutely just unforgivable.
100%. And that woke mind virus, you can see where it's spreading. A Texas State University student has imitated the assassination of Charlie Kirk while threatening TPUSA members with violence at a Charlie Kirk memorial. Let's look at this.
Charlie's gonna die in the neck. He's not real. Oh my God.
Texas State University's president has announced the school has identified and expelled that student. I mean, FAFO, but there's just been so much awful commentary around Charlie Kirk's death, but it's really frightening to see someone go the next step and imitate the assassination.
You're exactly right. I think I've shaked my head more in this segment than I ever have before on national television, because this is truly sad. The fact that there are people on the left who are absolutely, dancing on the grave of someone who lived their entire life about, promoting God, promoting family, promoting love of country. And now they're saying that because of that, for some reason, because the warped ideals have been spread across platforms, that he was some racist. I've got to tell you, I've known Charlie Kirk since I was 12 years old. He was never a racist. Being pro-America doesn't make you anti-Black. And it's unfortunate that so many people across this country have fed into that lie. And I got to tell you, they need to be held accountable. And thank God that Texas State has great leadership and they've expelled that student from their campus because he has no place being on any campus of higher learning if he's going to act like that and act like a blatant animal.
Well said. Now, some Democrats can't even get Charlie Kirk's name right. Here is Jerry Nadler getting Charlie's name wrong multiple times.
The murder of Charlie King to go after free speech is not a legacy I believe Charlie King would have wanted.
CJ, what planet is he on?
What planet is he on? He's one on which that doesn't have term limits. And I think that's exactly what we need. He has no business being in the people's house. He has no business being a member of Congress. And thank God he decided to retire, and he will soon be no longer a member of that body. But, here's the deal. Everyone will know Charlie Kirk's name. Erica Kirk was absolutely right in her remarks. Her tears will be a battle cry that is heard all around the world. So if Jerry Nadler doesn't yet know her name, trust me, he soon will.
Well, another story that the media refused to cover and we will not move on from is, of course, the murder of Irina Zarutska. Now, a grand jury has indicted the man accused of fatally stabbing Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina. DeCarlos Brown Jr. has been formally charged with first-degree murder, and the case now advances to the Superior Court, with Brown's next hearing scheduled for October 16. And if he's convicted, he faces a sentence of life in prison or, if sought by prosecutors, the death penalty. But Irina Zarutska's family have expressed their enormous grief. They said that we're heartbroken beyond words. Irina came here to find peace and safety, and instead her life was stolen from her in the most horrific way. They went on to say that no family should have to go through this. This could have been anyone riding the light rail that night. We're committed to making sure this never happens again. Now, CJ, this horrific case, has also just highlighted the huge issues with crime and basic safety, I should say, in public spaces.
You're exactly right. And yet we still have Democrat mayors and Democrat governors fighting against President Trump's, mission and agenda and his mandate that he was given by the American people just last year to make America safe again. People want to live in safe communities. They want to feel safe on public transportation. They want to feel safe as they walk down the streets of their neighborhoods and their communities. President Trump is fighting for that each and every day. And so for all of these progressive liberals and, all of these folks that are, in these local communities to fight against that, it goes to show that they don't actually give a damn about their community. And so I'm glad to see that we have a president who will fight tooth and nail to ensure that we never have another case like what we saw in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's no place for it in this country. This is the United States of America and a third world dystopia.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has revealed that more than 150,000 patriotic Americans have applied to work at ICE to help the agency carry out deportations. Now, CJ, it certainly seems that Americans are really answering the country's call to serve here.
They are. And, I got to say, again, going back to the president's mandate, this is exactly what he ran on, exactly what he said he would do, right? He said he was going to make America's border secure again, and he was going to make America safe again. And this also, I think, is a benchmark to prove that Americans support exactly what he's doing. They're rushing to the gates to join ICE. They're rushing to the gates to secure our border because they know that a border security is national security, and God bless them for it.
CJ Pearson, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
King Charles has welcomed Donald Trump to Windsor Castle as the president began a historic state visit to the UK. Riley Sullivan is a lifestyle reporter here at skynews.com.au, and he's always across the latest celebrity headlines. Riley, great to see you.
Great to be back.
So Donald Trump, he had the entire state dinner laughing. Let's look at this.
It's a singular privilege to be the first American president welcomed here. And if you think about it, it's a lot of presidents, and this was the second state visit, and that's the first, and maybe that's going to be the last time. I hope it is, actually. But this is truly one of the highest honors of my life.
You can see King Charles chuckling away there, but talk to us about the highlights so far.
Yeah, what a start to this historic second state visit. Of course, this is really the showpiece for British soft power and foreign policy. There's a fantastic word when we talk about state visits, which is ballroom diplomacy, which is sort of the power of the UK and the royals to charm their hosts. And I think that this was the perfect example of that. Donald Trump has had a lifelong fascination with the royals. I think he gets that from his mother. Of course, his mother, Marianne Trump, she was Scottish by birth. She was from the Outer Hebrides. So I think that was a lifelong connection through his mother. And I think it's such a positive. You know, Keir Starmer really kind of pushed this from the very beginning. When Trump was re-elected, he made sure to get that state visit invite ready and pencil this in. I think the first day has been nothing but a success.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? Now, the royal family and the president exchanged gifts before the formal lunch. Do we know what each side gave one another?
Yeah, they were very symbolic gifts. For the Trumps, they gave the Queen a very special Tiffany vintage brooch, which was the perfect gift for Camilla because she really does love a brooch. I think she was pretty excited to receive that. And for the Trumps, they were given 3 things. They were given a leather-bound version of the Declaration of Independence. They were given a Union Jack that had flown above the palace, and they were also given a replica of the Eisenhower sword. Sorry. The king was given a replica of the Eisenhower sword. Yeah.
And almost the entire royal family stepped out for the funeral of the Duchess of Kent, including Prince Andrew. Now, how are Charles and William feeling about standing next to the Duke of York, rather, do we know?
Yeah, you know, this was such an awkward encounter. It's kind of a funny one, you know. Prince Andrew is very much in exile. He's not really welcome at public events, but of course you can't disinvite him. You can't, you know, refuse to allow him to attend a funeral of a family member. So naturally, he used that opportunity, I thought, very cynically. I think that he was jockeying himself to stand between the King and Prince William. They looked horrified. There was a lip reader who kind of allegedly deciphered what Andrew tried to say to Will. He said something bizarre like, "Oh, haven't we had a good time?" Which is a bizarre thing to say at the funeral of a family member. It was very awkward for all involved. We saw the Duchess of Edinburgh standing there. She was not making eye contact with Prince Andrew. And then in the middle, we had Fergie, who, again, is not really a member of the royal family anymore, but she's there and seemed very pleased to be there. It was a very bizarre set of circumstances for them to be appearing to take a very somber and serious moment as a way to kind of, I don't know, put themselves back out there. It was very weird.
Now, more details have emerged about the remarkable life of the Duchess of Kent following the funeral. Why are some outlets calling this her secret life?
Yeah, you know, I think the Duchess of Kent really was a lady who took her royal responsibilities seriously. She was very pragmatic, and she was someone who kept a piece of herself to herself. She wasn't really that out there in the press. She did her royal duties. Most famously, she was a patron at Wimbledon. Everyone remembers that iconic moment from the 1993 Wimbledon final when Jana Novotná lost to Steffi Graf and she was crying and the Duchess of Kent reached out and hugged her. That was an amazing moment, and it's come up again since she's died because it was so shocking at the time to have a member of the royal family hug someone, which it seems silly, you know, nowadays, but at the time it really was, and it was such an insight into what she was really like. And this secret life was something that came in her late 60s. She quietly decided to step back from royal duties and she took on a new career. She became a music teacher at a public school. She stopped using the title Duchess of Kent and she really just called herself Mrs. Kent. She was the music teacher at a primary school. She did that for over 10 years and that was, I think, one of the highlights of her life. So what a classy person, you know, someone who really had that old-fashioned service, that sort of life of service that the Queen had. And it's remarkable now, you know, in death, to hear even more about all the things that she did and the lives that she touched.
Yeah, it really is. Now, finally, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are set to make a surprise appearance in a new documentary about Disneyland.
Yeah.
So what's behind this cameo? Do we know, are the Sussexes getting paid for this?
I think this might be the tackiest thing they've done yet.
Wow.
I mean, to be honest, this is so lowbrow. I think it's so beneath members of the royal family to be shilling for a Disney documentary, whether they're getting paid for it. We know that Harry and Meghan took Archie and Lilibet to Disneyland on a VIP visit. They posted about it on social media. At the time, I kind of thought, okay, they've taken this free visit to Disneyland in exchange for social media clout. Maybe there is more of a partnership there. We know that they're on a first look deal now with Netflix, so Disney and all the other kind of streamers and entertainment companies can take a piece of the Sussexes if they want. So there's certainly maybe the beginning of more of a relationship with Harry and Meghan and Disney. I do think with things like this, you just have to wonder, do they have regrets? Do they ever think, God, you know, we had it all? I mean, for Meghan Markle, really, she threw it all away. If she'd stayed in the royal family, she could have not only been so powerful and so effective, she would have had so much influence. You know, we think about this state visit, we've got the President of the United States sitting down with the royals. I mean, the rooms that they would have been in and the influence and the possibilities for affecting change that they could have made, to now be basically influencers selling themselves for, you know, free events and a bit of money. I mean, it's just so sad.
It's sad. It's the choices they've made, right? And it doesn't appear so. I'm going to hear the "we regret it" words coming out of Meghan Markle or Prince Harry's mouths.
The
I
ego.
mean,
Yeah.
you know, she keeps doubling down with her Instagram posts. It's unbelievable. But Riley Sullivan, great to speak to you.
Thank you.
And that is Power Hour. Thank you for your company. We'll see you next week. Make sure you subscribe to Sky News Australia on YouTube.